2 years ago today, I had at most $5,000 to my name, and fast forward to today, I am 19 years old. I own a wholesale real estate business that profits me over $50,000 every single month. I've grown that business to generate me over 6 figures in profit in total, and I want to show you guys exactly how I found out about the business model, what the business model is, how I scaled it, how I invested my money, and everything else that you would need to know about the industry before getting into it. So if you're somebody who's looking for a business model, tired of working a normal 9 to 5, or you're just an experienced wholesaler looking to learn more about another wholesaler's story, then this is definitely the video for you. And if you enjoy the video, leave a like, leave a sub, that helps me out a lot, and let's just get straight into it. Okay, so first things first, how did I even save up that first 5K in the first place? The first thing I did was I got 2 jobs and I just worked my ass off. That's the simplest way to do it. You know, you could obviously do a side hustle, try to grow a little local service-based business or something like that to make your first 5 to 10K. Will probably happen faster, but if you want a very secured way to make money, literally just get a job. Yeah, it's a grind, yeah, it sucks, and yeah, you're not gonna be doing it forever, but if you have $0 to your name, the chances of you succeeding in business is very, very low. If you have $10,000 or $15,000 saved up though, because you worked for 3 months and saved all your money, then it is going to be very likely that you're able to start a business that you can actually succeed in rather than something that you're just trying to get lucky with. I personally worked at a golf course on the weekends and then a plumber during the weekdays after school. So yeah, I was probably bringing in about $1,000 a week. After like 3 months, I saved up about $5,000 because I was pretty bad with my spending habits back then. But once I saved up that money, I ventured into wholesale real estate. The way I found out about the business was actually just on TikTok, like how most of you guys are seeing this YouTube video. I was just scrolling and found a random TikTok that was talking about wholesale real estate. Now, the one thing that distinguished this business model from anything else that I've seen in the past was just the fact that it didn't really seem like much of a scam. Trading, drop shipping, all of those get-rich-quick business models that you see online just seem fishy. They just don't seem too legit. And I don't know what it is about them. I know people actually do make money doing those things, but it just doesn't seem realistic to me. And because of that, I knew I wasn't going to succeed in them. If I don't have conviction in something that I'm doing, meaning I think that it can genuinely work, I am not going to make money with it. That's just kind of how it is. But I knew real estate creates the most amount of millionaires every single year, and I knew in the future I am 100% going to be in real estate, whether it just be owning a property or whether it being a huge flipper. I knew I was going to do something within real estate, so I knew wholesaling real estate seemed like a great way to just enter into it. Also, everything that you do in wholesale real estate or real estate in general is tangible. You're working with real assets. Like, it is literally a property that has value. It's in the United States, and you're just finding that property, getting it locked up under contract, and selling it to an end buyer. So for the guys that don't know, let me explain to you what wholesale real estate actually is in the most simplest terms possible. You're basically being the middleman of a real estate transaction. So you try and find a seller and then connect them with a buyer. You keep the difference in the assigned contract price. So let's say you have a contract with the seller for their property for $200,000. If you find a buyer that is willing to purchase that property for $250,000, you will keep a $50,000 profit as what's called an assignment fee. Obviously, it's not as simple as that. There's a bunch more intricacies that go into it in doing a transaction and doing a deal. Fairly simple business model overall. Now, just because it's simple does not mean it's easy. I'm not sugarcoating this. I'm not saying it's a business model that anybody can get into and make $100,000 next week. This is a business model that takes at least 3 months to see any type of success in, and you are going to have to invest money into it. But the long-term benefits and the money that it provides and just the potential scalability of the business model overall is far beyond what you can experience in any other business model that you can get into nowadays. So now that you know what wholesale real estate is, how I found out about it, and how I saved up that first 5K to start, let me show you how I actually started out as far as like doing the training and whatnot. So just like anybody else, I started out by just watching YouTube. I watched a shit ton of YouTube, really grasped what the business model was and what all of the terms meant. I learned what ARV meant, what max allowable offer was. I learned what underwriting was, how to pull properties, what skip tracing was. All of the basic beginner terms that you would need to know as a wholesaler. I spent time and I learned it on my own on YouTube. And this is before I did any type of calls. So I actually went through a phase for about 3 weeks of analysis paralysis where I didn't do any actual work. I just sat there on my computer for probably 8 hours a day trying to just learn the business model. And this is my first big mistake. The reason why I think this is a mistake is because I delayed my starting time by 3 weeks. If I would have started out by just calling people on the phone and getting comfortable talking to people right off the rip, I would have been able to expedite my success a lot quicker because I wasted 3 weeks trying to just learn the business model. What you need to do as a beginner is get into calling people as soon as possible. This is the number one skill to make you money in wholesale real estate. Talking to people is the biggest hurdle that most people have that keeps them back from making money, simply because most people are just scared to talk to people. Most people delay it, and most people never end up doing it, and they just end up quitting the business model because they don't realize they actually have to talk to people. You have to talk to leads, you have to talk to sellers to actually land deals. So after my first 3 weeks of analysis paralysis, I eventually started calling for sale by owners as more of like a practice type thing. I wasn't trying to call for sale by owners to close deals. I was mainly just doing it for practice. I would call them for about 3 to 4 hours every single day, just trying to get my acquisition skills up and trying to learn my scripts. At this time, with all my hours in school and whatnot, I was spending time just learning about the business model. So watching videos from like Brent Daniels and Jerry Norton, showing people how to talk to people on the phone, how to underwrite properties. I was just learning and practicing as much as possible. Now, eventually, about a month in, I invested into my first dialer and list, and this is when I actually started to cold call and generate my own leads. Now, this is where the biggest mistake of my journey came in. I spent the next 5 to 6 months after that first month cold calling and wasting so much time and money. I probably burned through over $3,000 of just dialers and lists during this time, which is horrible to say, but I did, and I wasted over 5 months doing so. The reason why manual cold calling doesn't work is because you're completely basing it off luck and you're not doing enough volume, and it's just a very low leverage $3 an hour task. And unfortunately, I fell victim to it, so hopefully you guys don't after hearing that. But yeah, after about my 6th month, I came to my senses, started to run actual marketing. I think I started out with hiring one VA. That was a bad mistake as well. And eventually I closed my first deal through actually running meta ads and making $20,000 on my first deal. Now that $20,000, I just reinvested back into the business. I eventually started to scale up. So now let me talk to you guys about scaling the business model and my pathway from scaling to that first $20,000 deal till making it a consistent $50,000 a month. So the scaling started once I had that first $20,000 in my bank account. Once I saw that, I was like, okay, prior to this, I was playing a game where I just needed to make my first 10K, so I was willing to brute force through everything. But now I need to figure out how to leverage my time a little bit better now that I have a little bit of capital on my hands. What I did from here is I hired some cold callers that did all of my calling for me as far as my lead generation, and I was spending all my time just closing. So I was fully delegated out at this point from actual lead generation. I was doing no screening, nothing like that. I was only doing the acquisitions calls and giving out offers and then doing dispo. I had about 6 VAs running at a time, spending about $4,000 to $5,000 every single month. I was getting a ton of lead flow. Like every single day I would come home after school and I would have over 6 hours of leads worth to call. So at this point in my life, I was literally just grinding every single day. I didn't really go out, really do shit after school. I really just went to school, went to the gym, and worked. That's about it. That was my entire life. And because of that, and because of the sacrifices I took and the amount of leads that I was talking to every single day, my underwriting was getting better, my acquisition skills were getting better, my talking to buyers was getting better. And overall, I was just getting very good at like knowing how to analyze a real estate deal without even having to analyze that, if you know what I mean. So everything just gradually got more efficient. Obviously, my mind was working more efficiently. I didn't have to spend as much time qualifying, as much time underwriting. I was disqualifying leads very quickly. So if a lead was shit and I knew it wasn't going to make me money, I would throw it out of the pipeline and I wouldn't even bother wasting my time with it. But if a lead was very good, I was pouring, 40 minutes plus into a phone call with the seller trying to build up crazy amounts of rapport. And this is the turning point in what scaled my business. My disqualification got so good where I was being so efficient and I was not wasting any of my time. Wasting time is one of the worst things an entrepreneur can do, simply because you have limited time throughout your day. And if you're not spending your time wisely, you're not going to make the most amount of money. Remember, the amount of work you put in should be directly correlative with the amount of money you make. If it's not, you're doing something wrong during your day. The first month after I closed my first $20,000 deal, I was able to close 2 deals. So I was sitting at 3 closed deals total. At the time, I probably had around like 50 grand. Literally just kept gradually scaling up. I wasn't doing anything too fast. I wasn't throwing a shit ton of money back into the business at this point. I was literally just adding a caller every so often, adding another VA, adding a screening VA, adding a follow-up VA. And I was just generally delegating slowly throughout the process to make it easier on myself. I wanted to make sure I could maintain the position of highest leverage for the longest amount of time as possible. The highest leverage position you can have in a wholesale real estate business is acquisitions and talking to sellers. Because if you don't have a good person at that front, you are going to make no money, because think about if someone's just wasting all your leads. With having everything else delegated over the course of the next couple months, I was able to just keep on scaling. I went from doing 2 deals to 3 deals to 4 deals to 5 deals. And eventually I hired my first acquisitions rep. Now, my first acquisitions rep was like the turning point of everything for me, because I went from being like an employee and just being a wholesaler to an actual wholesale business owner. I bought back my freedom. I literally went from being on the phone for 8 hours a day to now just managing everybody and making sure everybody was doing the right thing. And I could, go out of town, or I could, go do something for 4 hours a day. I didn't have to work so much anymore. But my business would still make me money because I had people in every single spot. I had a VA doing dispo, I had a VA doing follow-up and screening, I had VAs generating my leads, and I had an acquisitions rep actually talking to my leads for a commission. At this point, I was running my business on around 60% margins. It was very healthy, doing very good, but I wanted to scale up further. I switched my lead flow from being from cold callers and cold traffic to warm traffic that came inbound to us using Google Ads. Now, obviously, this is the highest quality marketing, so it requires a lot less labor. It's a lot less churn on your acquisitions reps. They're working with higher quality leads, not shitty leads. So now, finally, let me talk about how I'm going to scale my business further and my plans for the future. Obviously, you guys know I just bought my first piece of property. My next plan is literally to just introduce more exit strategy. I want to buy more. I want to hold more. I want to get more rentals. I want to introduce more exit strategies to make me more money in different ways. And that is how I'm going to scale, because instead of making $10,000 on a wholesale deal, I can make $50,000 on a flip. Yeah, it's going to take me 3 months longer than a wholesale deal, but at the end of the day, it's more capital, it's more cash with the same amount of opportunity. So now that you know how I got into the business and all the problems I had along the way, let me show you how you should get into the business nowadays, knowing every single thing that I know today. Obviously, when I started out, I wasted thousands of dollars. I had no clue what I was doing. I wasted hundreds of hours, and overall, I just did not do things properly. The best thing you can do when you're starting out, like I said, is to just get good on the phone as soon as possible, and then spend your money on marketing. I would definitely recommend having a mentor in your corner to train you on your sales skills and your marketing, because those are the two most important factors. And then from there, you should be able to find buyers. Buyers are very easy to find if you can find good deals and good opportunity. So literally all you have to focus on nowadays is marketing and sales. And I would definitely recommend having someone in your corner to teach you how to do so. So yeah, guys, that's going to be about it for this video. Hopefully it helped a lot of you guys. That is exactly how I turned a couple $1,000s into a 6-figure business at the age of 19 over the last 2 years. And as always, guys, if you want to apply to work with me and my business partner Hunter directly, one-to-one, there's going to be an application form in the link down below. Just remember, this is not some type of course or community or anything like that. It's a one-to-one mentorship and a service. We provide you a service by setting up all of your marketing systems, automations, everything like that. So don't think of this as like some typical mentorship scam or course. We literally do the systems, we do the marketing for you, and make sure you get qualified leads, and then train you on your sales processes so you can actually close those leads. If you guys are watching this before Saturday, December 13th, on that day, I'm going to be hosting a free webinar that basically just goes over the topics of real estate and just an outline of how you should get into the business model that's a little bit more detailed than this YouTube video. That link is going to be in the description down below as well. Go register and go show up to that webinar. It's going to be insane. I have a ton of stuff planned for everyone there, and I'm also going to be giving away a few free resources for everybody that shows up. So yeah, guys, that's going to be on December 13th, Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you do sign up, just remember to show up on that date. And yeah, boys, other than that, that is going to be it. Make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment of what YouTube video you want me to do next, and I'll see you guys in the next one.